All right, everybody. Well, welcome to The Can, and this is a show where we discuss the experience of living in the correction system, the way it makes impact on individuals personally, and also to talk about the culture of prison. And today, I am not, though I was once in a holding cell as a 16-year-old, it doesn't really count, but my co-hosts here have had that experience. We'll start off with Jaason McMurray. Just give us the bare bones of your experience in terms of the kinds of facilities you've been incarcerated in, and what the events that led up to it.
I've had basic experience in juvenile facilities. I have extensive knowledge of the way they work and different ones, whatnot, specifically in the state I work or live in. It's different state to state here in America. So unless you're a super serial killer, you're not going to be in federal custody. It's just going to be something that it is based on the guidelines. So here in California, they have a pretty strict penal code, and they focus a lot on language. So it's really difficult to get away with anything out here once you get caught. And I ended up doing a rap for vehicular manslaughter in youth authority.
Yeah, I was going to say that you went to YA, or what we used to call it was gladiator school.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, isn't it? Yeah.
I did not go to the gladiator school, but I was in a youth authority. The youth authority is basically like the what's it called? The penal, not the penal. No, so if you have to go to state prison when you're an adult, you go to the penitentiary. Mm-hmm. The youth authority is that for minors.
Yeah.
So those that have infractions that require more of a commitment than a year or so go to these youth authority facilities, and it's really based on what you did and who you are and this and that. So there's like the gladiator school up in Preston. There's another one. They like to send people to camps. I can't remember what the nickname was for it, but there was this one up in Crescent City and Barrow. And
Barrow.
They love to send people up there. And but I ended up going to this place somewhere else. But it's all youth authority. Like, it's all clinical. It's all state by the book, regulations.
Well, yeah, I was under the impression until recently that if you're in juvie and then you turn 18, they just put you in adult prison. But then I found out they can actually keep you until you're like 24 or something like that?
In California, I'm not sure about federal offenses, but state offenses, they gotta inlet. They gotta cut you loose right after you. I think they got 6 months after you turn 18 to either cut you loose or retry you as an adult.
And transfer you, yeah.
And how old were you when you started your first sentence?
Incarcerated, I was 17. First time I ever been locked up.
Wow, 17.
Yeah, 17, never been locked up. Country boy. I did a year. No, it was, it was actually a little bit more than a year. It was like 14, 15 months or something like that. But I learned a lot of things.
And Raymond, I understand you've been a bit of a hellion in the past.
Yeah.
Tell us how you
came.
came. So how old were you when you first went away, and what the charges that led up to it, and all those
Well,
details?
the first time I went away isn't even the beginning of the whole story, if you want to get technical. I mean, I was born to a criminal and some drug addicts. And when I was about 3, my father was arrested and sent to prison for 20 or 22 years.
What was the charge?
It was all burglaries. My dad was a big burglar, and so they nailed him for like a whole bunch of unsolved burglaries and things all throughout the county and the area and whatnot. Three different counties arrested him that night. Matter of fact, I was with him the night he was arrested, and my dad and everyone say that we're lucky I didn't wake up, but my dad, like, I didn't wake up as soon as he did, but my dad woke up to the sound of of guns cocking, and he woke up and they had guns all pointed at him, and one guy had a gun to my head, and I was like a 3-year-old kid sleeping in the bed next to him, and my dad said, "Hey, take the gun off my kid's head and I'll go quietly right now." And the captain or chief or whoever was in the room, sergeant, whatever, said, "All right, yeah, get, back off the kid." And he did, and my dad complied, and my dad got arrested. So I, from there, rode in the back of that's my first memory of life ever, as I remember riding in the back of the cop car. I don't remember how long, but we were over in Solano County somewhere, and we rode from there back to Napa County, and I got dropped off at my grandma's. And then my dad, shortly after that, ended up going to prison. But anyway, the point I'm pointing this out to, so it's like my experience with the prison system and jail system goes back, starts early. But during my dad's trial, see, this is why my first time arrested isn't the whole story, because it wasn't the first time they tried to say I was an accomplice. So during my dad's trial, they couldn't quite figure out how my dad got into some buildings and was able to acquire certain safes of some place. Like, they couldn't figure out because there was no forced entry, no breaking and entering, none of that stuff. They couldn't figure it out. So one of the theories the DA tried to use for a minute there, it didn't last very long, but my uncles told me this, my mom's told me, people have told me this, that they tried to say that my dad had trained me to what he was doing was putting me into the ventilation systems of these buildings, and I was navigating through them into the building and opening the doors to let them in and whatnot.
It's a clever idea, but
right?
if it's
Jason, you got your... Yeah.
I never knew that, dude.
Yeah,
that is fucking crazy.
Right? So at 3 years old, for a minute there, I was an accomplice to a bunch of burglaries, according to the Napa DA. Which, of course, that got, dismissed. That was, they...
Well, locksmith tools, you don't need any kind of license to buy them. There's 2 tools you can use to open a lock, and it doesn't break the lock at all. You can, you don't need to be licensed to be a locksmith. Isn't that a little disquieting?
Yeah.
Well,
no.
you guys, there's an old saying that locks are meant to keep honest people out, and I think that rings very true. You know.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how tight you lock something up. If somebody wants to get in there, they're going to get in there, or they're going to try like a mofo to do it.
It's kind of on the lines of what I've always said about guns. If you outlaw guns, you're only guaranteeing that only outlaws will carry guns.
Well, there was a gang of mafiosi in Las Vegas. They just drilled holes in the sides of buildings that became known as the Hole in the Wall Gang. So these guys would find a way. They were in Casino. The Joe Pesci and his friends. That's who they were based on. So,
okay.
One thing I'm curious about is like the first they say the first night is like the hardest part of your first sentence. It's this whole new experience. You're not getting out for a long time. You don't know what you're going to encounter.
The first night's the toughest, no doubt about it. They march you in naked as the day you were born, skin burning and half blind from that delousing shit they throw on you. And when they put you in that cell, when those bars slam home, that's when you know it's for real.
So, Jaason, what was your first night like?
I'm glad you asked me first, Morgan. Thank you. I would like to backpedal a little bit on that, because it's not the first night you're sentenced. It's the first night you're there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I was on probation for my rep, waiting for I was on my own OR, I was OR'd. And,
that's own recognizance for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Meaning that you promised to come back. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
And I didn't have like I didn't have, a big old record or anything. But so I had an issue with
It's my torch. Continue.
Are you playing bingo over there? What the fuck is that?
Doing
All right.
dabs, I think.
Doing a dab. Here, I'll mute myself. Go ahead. Continue.
It's all this
Anyway.
green.
So I had an issue. Long story short, I had to interact with security at a resort that I worked at. Well, those security guards were police officers from a county a little bit away, and they made a police report about it, and it got back to my probation officer. I didn't do anything wrong at all.
Sir, you have to help me. The cops are trying to finger me for a crime I didn't commit. Whoa, calm down. What makes you so sure of that? You have to trust me. What?
But just because I had an interaction, they decided to take me in. So I'm just down in for my check-in. And they're like, oh, by the way, you're going to be staying with us. Anything in your pockets you want to give your mom? And I was like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? That was the worst part of my incarceration, Morgan.
So did you learn that you never go with them downtown?
Did you say I'll give it to your mom instead?
I was there for a P test. I was just there for my court-ordered weekly P test, and after I pissed in the cup, they were like, oh, hey, come into this room. And I was like, that's not the room I usually go into. Yeah.
Were you dirty?
No. Clean P test.
Were you dirty before?
Just because, nope. No dirty test. Just because.
You were on OR, right?
Yep. Because that fucking rent-a-pig at that resort fucking made a police report about our interaction, which I was not at fault at whatsoever.
So then they revoked your OR status. Yep. That is more common than you would believe.
Is everybody on probation forbidden from drinking alcohol and doing drugs? Is that a common?
No.
Well, doing drugs, I'm not sure. Drinking. Only if you have an alcohol-related offense.
I believe it's called a 2B or a 3B, something like that. It's a stipulation in probation where you can't consume alcohol, and that was only a stipulation usually if your crime consists of alcohol, like a DUI.
Right.
If you get a DUI, there's going to be an alcohol stipulation.
Or a drunken public, or something like that. Just drunk and disorderly, or
even if you assault somebody but you're intoxicated while you're doing it, like at a bar, they will add that stipulation.
And the same thing, you'll get one for drugs also. Like if you're raps for like possession of controlled substance or something like that, then you're going to get drug tests. Also.
Yeah. They don't necessarily now drugs are banned by probation period, but they don't necessarily drug test you unless it's felony or felony probation, and usually it consists of drugs. Now there is a way around that with weed. Even in California, if you get a medical prescription, then you can take it to your probation officer, they'll deny it, then you can go in front of a judge, and the judge will have to approve it because they have to follow the state laws, and
Right.
if a doctor and then once it's approved by the judge, then the probation has to honor it, and then I've done it. I've gotten medical marijuana while on probation in California, but, it's not necessary, not necessarily you can't.
Blindness. What were you going to ask, Morgan?
Well, okay. So what I'll do is we were just talking about first sentences and being a young person and the system. I showed you guys a video that it was kind of similar to the Scared Straight program, where a judge sentenced kids to a prison and had the inmates there, both at the men and women's prison, scare them up. And unfortunately, the first time we recorded this, we tried to record, it didn't record.
A terrified 9-year-old boy dangled like a raw piece of meat in front of a pack of prisoners. His crime, stealing pocket change from his mom and lying. A 14-year-old girl bullied by female inmates, even called a whore. Her crime, sexting and disrespecting her mom. And a horrified young boy picked up and shoved in a jail cell by guards. His crime, smoking and sneaking out at night.
This right here is where you're going to be if you don't change your life.
These kids are serving a sentence handed down, believe it or not, by their very own parents.
Step over! You'll keep your hands at your sides.
I want to say something to these kids first. Y'all's life is going to change just a little bit today. What you're going to see here today and what you're going to experience here, I hope will impact you for the rest of your life.
You got a problem with me? Look up. Do you understand?
By the end of the day, y'all should not want to be here.
They put on a jail uniform.
Put this on over your clothes.
They actually sit in a cell. Inmates come and talk with them.
You're a thief, right?
They eat lunch at the jail. I think they even experience what it's like to have handcuffs on, so that they can get the full flavor of where they're headed if they don't stop their behavior.
Don't cry, suck it up.
Once the sheriff left the jail and the bars slammed behind us, our crew was shocked at what went on.
Pat your head and rub your stomach and say, I am a thief.
Prisoners berating and cursing at the children. Young girls ordered to clean the toilets of inmates without gloves.
Put your hands out.
Children thrown in cell blocks with hardened criminals, even murderers.
But yeah, so where do you guys stand? Do you think these programs are effective, and do you think they're out of line in terms of taking that kind of extremist approach?
I'll let you go first, Scoop.
Thank you, sir. I was in San Quentin, and we had Scared Straight that came through weekly. But I was actually in the infamous West Block of San Quentin. It was crazy. That's where I saw some shit that we'll talk about eventually. That's a whole other show, right, Jason? But anyway, it wasn't like that, bro. Okay, in that video you shared, Morgan, trust me, I would be livid if I found out someone was doing that to my kid. Like, the way they're picking up that little kid and, like, trying to shove them into cells, and they're screaming. Like, these ain't grown adults. These ain't even near adult teenagers. You know, these aren't military people. This isn't boot camp. You know, yeah, I get it's a Scared Straight program, but you can traumatize a little child doing shit like that to a point where they actually get more fucked up and do worse stuff. You know, showing people what it's like to be there is one thing, but, you know, you can't even do that. You can't even treat other inmates with that type of behavior. You'll get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So to have them doing that to kids just because it's kind of silly. I believe that maybe, I assume, yeah, you'd have to be 18 to do it, I guess. So that's why I always say maybe prior to graduation, or maybe only those seniors who turn 18. When you're 18 as a senior, maybe you get to. But I believe that all kids at some point should have to go spend like a month or two in jail, in prison, given their own wing, their own section. But they should just spend a month there so they can get an idea of what it's like, just so they know that this is what it's going to be like if you fuck up now as an adult. You're going to be stuck here for longer than necessary. You don't got to put them on the same yard or in the same cells as killers and bank robbers and stuff. They can have their whole own section, but they should experience it. Like there's many things that kids should have to experience before they graduate, and I feel it's one. But like I said, when it comes to that video, the severity of how they're treating those kids, I think, is a bit uncalled for. I don't think that letting them experience it is wrong. I think that's a right thing. But, you can really screw up a little dude in the mind, screaming at him like that.
But that said, if you do cross another inmate, like I know stealing is like a big violation.
Oh, yeah, stab your ass.
Yeah, so if you do piss someone off by doing something like that, they will treat you the way those kids were treated, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you do something really wrong or you steal or you get out of line, you're getting removed. I mean, you're probably getting, depending on where you're at. If you're on a 3 or a 4 yard, you're getting stabbed. They're hands-off policies. There's no fighting. But like a 1 or 2 yard, you might just get, disciplined, where you get a 2-on-1 where 2 attack you. Or sometimes 3, depending on the severity of what you did. And if it's really serious, you're getting removed from the yard. And if you get removed from that yard, then you're no longer good for any yard. So you're done. Like your career as a good standing, can walk any normal yard, solid inmate is now over. And you're going to have to PC up, because any yard you go to, once they find out you were removed from any yard, they're going for you again, and they're going to take you off that yard. Because it doesn't matter what you did anywhere, it transfers with you. Eventually, it's in your paperwork, and that's something that people tend to forget, that inmates are the ones who do all the paperwork in prison. The correctional officers and the staff, they don't do any paperwork at all. At least in the California prison system, it's all inmates.
No, it's all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really the inmates who run the prison, right?
Oh, very much.
It
very
is.
much.
It is.
Very much. Very much.
So
the inmates are the House, the Congress, and the Senate, and all that, while the correctional staff is Biden and Kamala and Nancy.
Well, some of them are bribed, so even they don't have full authority. At least what the warden would like to enforce.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So Jason, where do you stand on the scared straight concept?
I really think it's child abuse, to be honest with you. There's now, I guess the difference lies in the fact that, like, these, like Raymond pointed out, these are for. You got some snacks?
Hurry up and open that package, Bray.
Got a Pop-Tart.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, these children are young, and like you pointed out.
But I just want to say, Pop-Tarts are something you can buy in prison, and this is how you eat them, because there's no toasters. So I'm eating it like that too.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. I'll mute myself. Continue.
Is the wrapper off now?
Yeah, he's just got the Pop-Tart now.
All right. So, anyways, what I was going to say was, yeah, it's child abuse, dude. It's not happening to people that would actually affect. It's happening to children, and it's traumatizing them. I mean, these are like 7, 8. I think there was a 5 or 6 year old in that video. And it's just fucking ludicrous. It's dramatic. Yeah.
So yeah, that one kid, remember, he had him over his head and he's trying to shove him in the cell like this.
And you know, like that kid,
a fucking giant doll or something.
And they said at the end of the video that he started stealing again 2 weeks after they did it, so it doesn't work. So he's just gonna act out.
And all right, to be honest, let's be honest. We're in the can together. You know, I learned how to do more shit than there when I
Like
was locked up.
Con College, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Con College, bro. Like I learned how to fucking
Totally.
I learned how to do a lot of things. I'm not gonna name them because they're illegal, but I never learned that shit before I went there. You know.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of like
Right.
burglars who have said, I went away for like a couple of years and I learned from other burglars, and then I figured out how to do it better so I wouldn't get caught. There's a lot of that kind of mentoring going on.
It's all about change.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. What can we do about at-risk youth? These kids who are just getting into trouble and they're probably going to end up in jail. They're involved with drugs. They're involved with gangs, violence.
I got a great answer for that.
Me.
Go ahead.
I raised my hand first.
You first. Go ahead.
Beat their ass.
Yeah. The single mother.
I'm done.
Well, father absence certainly doesn't help. That's definitely seems to put most of them at risk. Yeah.
That's precisely where I was going to go with it.
Yes,
It is,
their father needs to beat their ass.
It's the father absentee in the home. That is what's causing it. Women cannot raise even girls. They have not that they can't. They have a hard time corralling them and keeping them in check. And children need a healthy sense of respect and fear. And unfortunately, that's usually the father's job. And if you look at almost everyone, whether they're in and out of the jail system, prison systems, if they're on drugs, teen pregnancy, any sort of matter of fact, this is part of my sociology paper I'm writing about, dude. My actual topic of my sociology paper I'm writing on that I came up with is deviant behavior and how it's related to the epidemic of the lack of fatherhood, and how the government
the missing of masculinity, basically,
and how the government incentivizes single motherhood through the welfare program.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm writing my sociology paper on right now. And so there's studies after studies after studies. There's kids in China. They did a whole study on these kids in China. They're all absent father children. They are greatly more at a risk, or even in China, than normal kids of being involved in bullying, either being the one that bullies or the one that is being bullied. Because
low academic achievement,
low self-esteem, low sense of self,
low drive. Actually, is what it is. It's a low drive. Like no sense of worth, no desire to better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, when I was a kid, I had a big wheel. The plastic, big old plastic thing. Yeah. Did y'all have those in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
Morgan? All right. So we started out, we took the front tire, the big one, and we put a bicycle tire on it.
Like a lowrider, yeah.
Nice, bro.
We gave a super grip, and we would just drift down.
Oh yeah, because those plastic
roads
backs would totally slide. Shh.
And then, like 2 years later, they came out with the Knight Rider one that had like a little brake on the side. That's what I'm talking about. Ingenuity, like the
all about that.
The individual's way to make something better. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that anymore.
Well,
now everybody's waiting for somebody else to make things better.
Without a positive father figure, children across the board, across the country, in the Congo, I'm reading studies about this on kids in Congo, let alone America.
Yeah,
they're lacking a proper socio-emotional sense of self. Okay, mm-hmm. They don't know who they are, and so they're rushing out. I've got to identify as something that I'm not. I'm going to steal to be cool.
Well, they're confused. They don't know what the fuck to do.
The girls. All the little girl ever wants to hear is "I love you" from daddy. That's all they ever want. And if they don't get that,
that's the ones I like.
Then
first, they will date. They will date the worst guys. They will.
Well, do you know why, Morgan? It's because they say "I love you." See, that's the thing. The girl doesn't hear it from dad, who's the positive male role. See, dads are supposed to be there to teach boys how to be men, and how women should, and show girls how they should be treated by men. Okay, and so they're looking for that, and they don't get it. So then they go out finding it, and the first person that says it, unfortunately, is usually the wrong person. You know,
not finding it, looking for it.
Right. But what I'm saying is, but then they find it, and usually the first person that says it is the wrong person. And usually that person also is lacking a father in his home growing up. That's why he doesn't know how to act or be. You know, I grew up.
Well, therein lies the deterioration of our society right now.
Yes.
You know,
I grew up without a positive father figure in my life.
That's why we have so many people in the can.
And exactly. Well, see, my dad was in prison. I grew up without the positive father figure, so I was left to figure it all out on my own. And guess what? 90% of my choices have been the wrong one. I've gone down the wrong path. I've made the wrong decision. I've gotten in lots of trouble. Matter of fact, I didn't even. That's not, like I said. Yeah, I was dad's accomplice at 3, but the first time I ever got arrested, I was 17. Well, I was actually 14. First time I did a breaking and entering, but that got expunged because I promised to write a apology letter and never go back there again. Right,
Yeah.
so that's what they had me do. Because nothing. It was an ice cream store. We stole ice cream. We broke into the refrigerator.
Stole ice cream.
Yeah, me and a couple buddies broke into allegedly broke into the freezer out back and stole a bunch of ice cream from Clover Store Netta, and were caught by the cops eating ice cream right outside. And the Clover Store, we didn't break nothing. Like, we knew that we had the code to get in. Like, so the Store Netta guys were like, you know what, apology letter, and you can never step foot on anywhere on the property. And I think that's still in effect to this day. I'm not really sure. It did say never.
Banned from Snornetta.
It did say never. But when I was 17, I got my first drunk in public. We ditched school. We were at the continuation school there in Napa. We ditched school, went around the corner because my buddy lived right around the corner. And his dad had a nice liquor cabinet. Went over there. Scoob drank way too much vodka, like normal. And then, like 3 blocks away, was this little like convenience store with a Mexican restaurant, like a little strip mall, like not a strip mall, it's just like a small, convenience area. It's got a convenience store, a Mexican restaurant. It had a little head shop, which I think was actually a record store at the time. But anyway, I passed out right behind that store. It's like 11:30 in the morning, and then female cop shows up and tries to arrest me. My buddy's telling me I'm sitting there hella hammered, hitting on the female cop that she's trying to arrest me and shit.
Female cops are sexy, bro.
Yeah, sometimes
There's something about that uniform and the gun. She could.
And the sense of authority, yeah.
Not all of them, dude. If
No,
you got
definitely
like
not.
a moose.
I have seen some seriously sexy female.
No, I've seen a few.
I have too,
But a lot of them are like wildebeests.
More or less. Yeah, most of them are wildebeests.
Yeah.
PE teachers got a better job.
Exactly.
So in terms of these at-risk youths, I know. Say you're a gang member and you want to recruit new members. Are you going to go to the kid who has a nuclear family in the suburbs, or are you going to approach the kid who comes from poverty and he's like bullied, he's like in a vulnerable position?
You're going to
yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, you tell that kid, join our family. That word family is very seductive.
Yeah.
And that's.
Were you done? Good.
Oh yeah, because I was going to actually seek into a discussion about the Aryan Brotherhood because I'm doing an episode of Human Monsters about them. And Ray, you were in San Quentin, and that's where they formed it. Did you rub elbows with those guys or?
Oh yeah, they're around. They're everywhere. Okay. Let's put it this way. So the Aryan Brotherhood is the peak of the whites in prison system, and there's a lot of them, but there's not as many as you would think. Most whites aren't a part of that, but everyone technically has to, like, it trickles down. It's like under that you got subsect after subsect after subsect of races of whites.
It's like being an American. You're like, oh yeah, I'm an American, but Joe Biden's a fucking idiot. Yeah. It's not quite that extreme, but it's kind of like that.
Well, they represent 0.1% of the prison population, but they commit something like 18 to 30% of the murders.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about who does 50% of the murders?
Well, that outside of the.
Well, one thing I've read many times is it's admirable to be colorblind on the outside, but on the inside you have to stick with your own, right?
Oh, you have to. Well, it's not just your own. There are certain races that you can fuck with, that you're good with. Okay, so like if you're white, you're good with Southerners, Southern Mexicans, Native Americans, and
That's it. Asians.
no, Asians are others, and others run with blacks and Northerners.
Latinos, are they more in league with? Because I know they've done
Once
business
again,
with.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, they do business with the Aryan Brotherhood, like in terms of drugs and stuff, and.
See, Latinos is not. You don't understand the words you're saying, because there's Southern and there's Northern. There's
even though they're all Latinos, they're all Mexicans. It's not.
There's two factions.
It's very different. You're either a Northerner or you're Southerner. Well, then there's also like what you call the Paisas, which are like the field farm workers. They're not really Northerners or Southerners, but if you're Mexican, you have to click up with one of them, and once again, that's like I said, the Northerners run with the blacks and the others, and then the Indians and the Southerners run with the whites. Yeah, that's how it rolls. And that means that you can do anything. You can play games. You can, smoke. You can eat. You can make a spread and share it with an Indian or a Southerner. That's fine. But you cannot do any of that stuff with the other races. You can't. And how they decided these things, who's added, who's taken away, whatever. It's all above my pay grade. When I get there, I look at the prison politics the same way as I look at outside laws and politics. I didn't necessarily vote for each and every one of them, but I have to follow them or else I face the consequences.
Yeah, it's hard to be independent too, right? To just have no affiliation.
It's rough. It's rough. I mean, I wouldn't say it's
hard. It's easy.
No, I've done it both times. And part of the reason is because of my last name. Both my dad and my uncle have been in the system. Like, people know who I am. They know my name.
Yeah, history's a big thing there.
Yeah, and both. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the state penitentiary system, like family, regardless of what caste you're from, people they remember. Oh, Hazen. Oh yeah, I remember.
Yep.
I remember him. My dad did time with him. Said blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I've done time with plenty of people who've done time with my dad and my uncle.
Exactly.
But and then on top of that, it's like, so when I was first getting on the bus for the first time to go to prison, and mind you, I'd been locked up plenty of my life by this point. Starting from 17, I didn't go to prison first. How old was I? Fucking
23.
So about 2010. No. It was 2011. It was January of 2011 was the first time I was arrested and sent to prison. But by that point, mind
not
you,
the first time you were arrested.
Nowhere near. First time I was arrested was 99, 90. Well, technically it was like 95 when I was 14, but that doesn't really count.
I think the way to put it would be the first time they got tired of your shit.
Yeah. I, at that point, had already done, I'd say, close to 6 years.
Yeah,
incarcerated.
Yeah. In and out of county.
In and out of county, yeah. But anyway, so and first one, it was vandalism. Believe it or not, I kicked out the windows of a cop car when they had me arrested, and so they hit me with felony vandalism. And matter of fact, when I came home from prison from that first term, all the Napa cop cars had bars in the back windows now. And to the story, from what I hear from plenty of people, including officers and things, that it wasn't my fault because I'm not the first person to do it, but I was definitely the last straw. So they were like, you know what, fuck it, we're spending the money, we're putting bars in those back windows. But what I was saying real quick, then we'll move on to the next. What the one guy told me is if you can avoid debt if you can stay away from gambling and drugs while you're in there and accumulate no debt behind those two things, you will have almost no problems. So, I mean, like if you want to get some weed or something, make sure you have the inventory to purchase it. Don't say I'll get you back later, because later on might not be soon enough for them, and then that's all it takes.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah,
Now we're
so-
starting to discuss the black market of the.
I mean, well, what my point was is not getting in trouble, not having issues. If you can
Yeah.
avoid those things, you won't have problems or issues, and so you don't really have to necessarily click up. You know what I'm saying? I didn't technically click up, but I ran as a wood, which is just that's just like a white guy. It's like a non-racist, non-gang membered, non-affiliated
Peckerwood.
Yeah,
Is that what they mean? You're just white? Is that what that means? Or
yeah.
That doesn't mean you're neo-Nazi, right?
No.
Yeah, well, it matters how you ask.
Hey,
if you ask a black dude that's fresh in, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Peckerwood," and you're like, "Oh yeah," he's gonna think that you're a fucking racist, that you're a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, but he's an idiot.
The
Because
media also
neo-Nazis.
seems to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that seems to be the connotation that you see in the media as well.
Well, of course.
And they use those terms. They're describing neo-Nazi types. Yeah.
Well, what they're not understanding is neo-Nazi is an actual thing. Like, it's like Nazi lowrider is a fucking crew. You know, like
it's like we were talking about in what's your other show? I'm sorry. Fact You, in the teabagging segment, people are playing fast and loose with all kinds of terminology. It used to be like if someone said white supremacist or white supremacy, they were referring to neo-Nazis, the KKK, all these people. Now,
Brotherhood.
Now it's a thing where if a business happened to have like 75% white employees, they refer to that as white supremacy. So they're blurring the lines, just because there's a preponderance of white people. Doesn't mean they're all into neo-Nazi shit. But
I wouldn't say they're blurring the lines, but I feel exactly what you're talking about, Morgan. It's not blurring the lines. They're progressing their narrative.
Well, yeah,
it's reverse racism. It's anti-white reverse racism is what it is.
Yeah, we hear about oppression a lot. Well, in the can, I would say certain people get oppressed quite a bit.
Dude.
Play their cards right with other inmates or the staff or whatever. You can really fuck your whole life up, right? Like you make certain mistakes and it's over, right?
Well, I imagine if you go to the can, you've already fucked your life up a little bit. You know
but I mean, like if you don't play the politics properly, like
100%. 100%. You ready for this? Let me run you down a little scenario. Let's say you get a little, and the average person will go a little, but let's say you get like a little 4 years. When, trust me, in prison, that's not that long because you're really only going to do about 2, maybe 2.5 on that, and you're going home. I got 6 years, and I did 27 months on it. You know what I'm saying? So trust me, it goes by. But anyway, while you're there, let's say you gamble a little bit. But you gamble on some football Sunday, right? We end up owing this guy, $40 or whatever.
You thought the 49ers were going to win.
Well, actually, have you been watching football as of late? Because trust me, the last few years, my Niners that's what they do. All they do is smash, bro, smashing. Especially with Christian McCaffrey.
That's another show.
Anyway, so you get a little hemmed up. You got a little debty. Nothing crazy, just a little debty. So, all right, I'll get you, right? Well, something happens with your family. They can't quite get the money to you right away. So they decide we're just going to come fucking take you out then, right? We're going to not necessarily kill you, but like, because it ain't killable. Now, let's put it this way: if you're on a 3 or a 4 yard, those are hands-off policies, meaning there's no fists; it's only knives. So, if something is upsetting you enough to where you want to go fight somebody, it has to be serious enough for you to stab them. So stab them. So up there, they might, But anyway, they come at you. You go to defend yourself, right? Because you're getting attacked. Well, you hit this one dude. He falls down, hits his head on the concrete, and busts his skull open. Okay? Now you've got assault on an inmate with great bodily injury. You're facing what? You don't think you can get new charges and go to court from in prison? So now your little 4 years now turn into 15 more,
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah. Some guys,
and your points go up, so they move you from the 2 yard or the 1 yard to the 3 yard because your points go up now because you got more years and more violence. And then now you're on a real serious yard where they go, hey, you have to go stab this guy now. because you're the new guy, and he owes that guy $2,000 for drugs, and well, it's on you, bud. You're up. Now, if you're old, like senior citizens, they don't like. There's certain people that are exempt from having to do things, like now, like once you hit over 35, like there's certain things you don't have to do anymore because there's so many kids between the ages of 18 and 28 that are trying to make names for themselves that, every time they say, hey, we need this done, who's going to do it? You'd be surprised. Dude, hands shoot up all the time. Hey, I'll go do it. So realistically, you might not even necessarily have to, but we're speaking in the hypothetical, right? So now either you go do this or we're going to stab you. So in defense of yourself from doing it, you go stab this guy. Well, he ends up dying. Well, you get busted. So now you're facing a murder charge all off of a 4-year fucking, who knows,
And then, and so
charge.
Say something happens like they say a big no-no is backing down from a fight.
You can't do that.
And if say you don't fight the guy, you just let him kick your ass because you're a wimp, right? So, say a guy had happened to him and he kept being targeted.
Is not the word they use.
Oh, yeah, faggot, pussy, or something like that, or
bitch.
Yeah. So so naturally he's going to be targeted for more violence, for extortion, stuff like that. Is there a way for him to get out of it? Does he have to just start fighting back? Is that the way to do it, or?
That's the only real way to do it. Other than that, you pay. You'll be paying something, financially.
Either die or fight back. It's sink or swim.
Yeah. It's just like with that UFC fighter guy, dude. I had to. I knew very well that dude was going to kick my fucking ass. Luckily, he wasn't trying to, physically hurt me. It was just, we were pissed. So when I socked him, and then he fucking took me to the ground. I didn't know his fighting style being, because I never watched his UFC, but he was a ground and pound guy. So the first thing he did was, after I punched him once, is he just ate that shit, bam, and came right at me and fucking took me right to the ground and just started dropping elbows right on my face, boom, and bounced my head off the concrete. And after the 5th time it bounced off the concrete, I swear, I'm not even too proud to admit, I fucking just went, all right, time out, fuck, all right, I get it, you win. And it was so funny. He just sits up, he's still over me, on his knees, but he sits there and goes, "You're good? You're done?" I go, "Yeah, bro, I'm fucked, bro." It was just all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam,
that's because
dude, I was swollen this right here, bro, knot on the back of my head. Fucking.
That's the initiation right there. That's all they're just seeing, that you can take your lumps and keep on swimming and know when, hey, I'm done. That's all it is.
Yeah, 100%. And him and I were cool after that. We were real cool after that.
Yep.
So.
Speaking of money, I know that the jobs you can get in prison, they pay sweatshop wages.
Way less.
Jaason, I don't know if you had a job in prison, but I know Ray has. What was your hourly rate?
Well, I got paid on piecework. When I did my time, we produced camping stuff. Park benches, fire rings, barbecues.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually we actually made the county where I was at money doing it. And we didn't get paid an hourly rate. We got this job pays this much on your restitution. This job pays this much on your restitution. And we would just keep trying to pay it off.
So also, you weren't actually earning money for yourself. It was just restitution money.
Well, yeah, but no. It's not like I was earning money for myself, but I was earning money for myself because instead of actually having to pay cash for my restitution, which was court ordered, they were paying it off for me after I completed these jobs.
That's pretty cool.
And Ray, what kind of jobs did you have, and what kind of wages did you get?
Well, I had a really nice office job. I had actually a really good job, man. I had an office with a swivel chair. I had 3 other inmates that technically worked directly under me. I used to joke with the chaplain and the deacon and a few other of the free staff that we were all the same rank and position because we all reported to the same guy. I was the community resource manager's lead clerk, and so I was handpicked for that job by the guy who was leading it. And like when I was paroling, that was my final task, was to handpick the right successor for him when I left. And so, which to my knowledge, I did, because Tim stayed there for a while, several years. I think he transferred out somewhere else after a while. But anyway, I loved my job. It was great. And I got paid. So in the state of California, the pay system is on tiers, 5 tiers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 being the highest. And each tier has different ranks, different levels. And so there's a minimum and a maximum, and depending on how long you've been at the job determines where you get to the maximum. So like the lowest tier of 5, for an example, is like a porter. A porter's a person who just like cleans the dorms, cleans the fucking cells, walks around with a broom. They start at the minimum is 5 cents an hour. The max is 8 cents an hour. Okay. I had the highest paid position, a level 1, as a community resource manager's lead clerk. I started at 38 cents an hour and I maxed out at 52 cents an hour. Now, there are 2 types of positions that paid more. One of them was, and at that institution there was one, and it was like the medical team, because they have to deal with biohazardous waste and stuff, because, a lot of inmates got hepatitis and AIDS and different things. So all that stuff in the medical ward is all biohazard. And so if you're an inmate that works there, you got paid, they made $1. And then fire camp people, they make $2. But where I was at, I made 53 cents an hour, or 53 cents an hour. That's right, when I maxed out. And so I got that for, the last year and change that I was there at that job. I got 53 cents an hour. The way they worked the restitution thing was, I'm trying to remember if they took part of that, which I want to say no, but I feel like they did. Maybe they did. But I know this, if anyone sent you money, so if you sent me $100 to put on my books while I was in prison, I only got $45 of it. The state took 55 because they took 55% of everything sent in. So if your family sent you, $1,000, well, you're only getting $450. They're getting $550.
Oh, wow. But did you ever do those jobs where it's like a bunch of inmates in orange jumpsuits cleaning up parks and shit like that?
No, like the road crews and stuff. No, I never did that.
I have had some experience with them, especially in the massive forest fires that we've had here in my local area the last 4 years. These fire crew guys, they work for 16 hours a day. They go out there and bust their fucking ass.
No
the
shit.
Training, it's insane. And to be honest with you, I consider it slave labor. It is.
Yeah, and that pay must be really shitty. That's
$2 an hour.
They're not doing it for pay, though.
No pay?
No. I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. I just told you because where I was at Jamestown, we send people, the fire camp training center, they send people to fire camp. That was part of my job, was to figure out what fire camps people go to. And I'm telling you, they make $2 an hour is what they get. But they also get a lot of time taken off their sentences. They're outside of gates. They've got a lot more freedom.
That's what I'm saying. They're not doing it for the money, dude. They're just doing it to get outside, and they usually, a lot of times, they get real food.
They get way better real food. Yeah. And check this out: if you're lucky enough to get stationed close enough to where your family can come visit, if you're not off at a fire fighting a fire and you're just at the camp, your family can come hang out and bring food and chill all fucking day. Any day they want, they can just show up. Yeah. And so there's a lot of perks to being at fire camp, but it's a lot of hard work.
It is a lot of hard work. Like I said, it's similar to slave labor. It's grueling work.
Just to pass the PFTs and the FFTs and all that at the training facility, to even qualify to go to a fire camp, it takes months, and there's a lot of people who don't.
You would have to have a clean behavioral record, I imagine, too, right?
Oh, yeah, you can't be causing trouble. the only crime that you can't really have is arson. Right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense on one hand, but it's also kind of funny. You'd think
That's a whole other show.
an arson guy would know about fire, right? He knows how to make it. He probably knows how to put that shit out too, you know?
But you know, one of the absurd things about the justice system, and I think it applies to in this country, is so you're caught with drugs, maybe you're a user of drugs, they're going to put you in prison, but the thing is you can get drugs just as easily inside as you can outside.
Oh yeah. The only difference is they cost a lot more.
Yeah, I imagine.
But that's a whole nother show. I mean, right now we're just doing a few other topics.
Well, like Portugal, they decriminalized drugs and they emphasized rehabilitation.
That was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to create like a sort of rehabilitative prison? So you can't leave the place. It's like prison, but it's just the whole thing is rehabilitation for drug abuse. The whole time you're there,
it's called rehab.
Rehab, yeah, but this is not like the rehab you can leave after 3 days. This is like you can't leave until they say you can leave.
It's a social state. That's what you're referring to, sir.
Hey, those 30 days.
That socialism. Hold on a second.
Well, maybe, but you know, it's like say you're a heroin addict, right? You don't get to say that you can't leave until like a year after the first day of your sentence.
Morgan,
and you know.
Those 30-day rehab programs are only level 1, category 1 facilities. Those are very rare. They go all the way up to 2-year facility. I've seen 6 months. I've been at a 1-year facility. I wasn't allowed to leave for a full year. They've got 2-year facilities. What is it?
What was it for your drinking?
Delancey Street. Delancey Street in California is a 2-year facility. You're not even allowed to have a visitor for the first 6 months. You don't have any contact. No, first year, no contact with anyone you knew, not even your mama, for the first year.
How effective was the treatment? I mean, it doesn't work if you don't want to use it, right?
Of course not. No rehab will work if you don't want it.
And it doesn't matter what your addiction is. That's 100% correct.
You have to want it to, or it's not there.
Yeah, you know, and that kind of gets into my whole voluntarist view on stuff. I mean, why are we even considering making me or you or anybody else pay for somebody else's fucking bullshit? People, that self-accountability.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there
is none in the world.
There are people who kill themselves with alcohol, right? So why not just do the same thing with everything else? You know what? You want to do cocaine, you want to take heroin, you're taking a huge risk with your health. You could die from it.
But that's your choice.
They just did that in Oregon. You guys know that, right?
They just legalized mushrooms. I know that.
Well, no, in Oregon, everything.
All the drugs, really?
I think it's Oregon.
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
everybody. One thing that differentiates the war on drugs from every other kind of war is everybody lost the war on drugs. Every side, both sides, they all lost. You know what I mean?
No,
I've been winning it this whole time. But
winning? No.
Yeah, dude, I fucked drugs up, bro.
But you didn't win the war on booze, that's for sure.
No, I beat that shit all the time, too.
Well, alcohol defeated you.
I'm a fucking general in that department.
Yeah,
hey,
were there ever any celebrity inmates that you did time with? Like, I think, was Manson in San Quentin? I'm not sure.
No. Manson Manson was at Corcoran, but I was a completely different yard, so I didn't see him. But he got sent to Napa State quite a few, which was same county, same town I was in, so he was there a lot. Jeremy Newberry was a center for the 49ers back in the early 2000s. I was in the drunk tank with him. He got in trouble up at Lake Berryessa. That was pretty cool.
I think Manson was in protective custody or something.
Oh yeah, he was totally towards protective.
Because isn't there a thing where if an inmate murders someone who's very high profile like that, they get a lot of respect?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, it depends on who the high-profile guy is.
If you killed Manson, everyone knew this is the guy who killed Charles Manson. Aren't the other inmates going to kind of respect him for that? Or
I would imagine so. Yeah, but Charles Manson isn't a big guy, and he wasn't remember Charles Manson. All he did was talk other people into killing people. You
He
know?
was like 5'2" and
Oh
skinny.
yeah, he's little, tiny. My dad said that.
Have you guys read Helter Skelter?
I read that yet.
No, I didn't. I haven't read it, but I've seen that movie that they made.
There's one part of the trial, he fucking jumped
Looks much
his
better
table
than
up
the
to
video.
the judge.
It always is.
There's
What do
one
you say?
part, at some point in the trial, he actually leapt from his table, like right up at the judge. He just jumped like a fucking frog at him.
Really?
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, not that I wouldn't put it past him.
You got to respect somebody's belief in something. I think he was a little bit premature, and I think he was definitely a little bit raw for our society. But I really don't think that Charles Manson was very far off.
I think he spent
as far as an attitude for today's contemporary pop culture.
He did say one of the phrases that blows my mind, and I go, man, I never thought I would totally agree with Charles Manson, but remember when he said,
a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
Used to be being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
I love that quote. He's right, too.
He's so right, dude. Just look
everybody
at
these days is fucking like mentally ill.
Insane.
They're a victim. They're triggered. Yeah, he was right.
Oh, and that ties right into something that we were talking about on our last show, Jason, about the end of days, and you know what it is, dude. All these people it's demons, bro. It's just different demons, and you know what it relates back to is no one's getting baptized anymore, because during an original baptism, the priest performs 3 different exorcisms on the infant to cast all the earthly demons away from you. So now all these people are growing up not being baptized. That's why for so long that you didn't have this shit. Like during the old pagan days, yes, there were people that thought they were furries and shit. I mean, think about it. If you went back 500 years and told somebody that I am really the spirit of something else inside me, they would just think that I was a demon. And that's basically what it really is. And during the Christianic years, this shit went away. Until I know this is a topic for another show, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's like
that is another show, but I just want to state that baptism and being born again are 2 different things that are very similar.
Yeah.
And I'm a born again Christian. I guess would be the best way to denominate. You know what I'm saying? I was never baptized. I'm a fucking bastard child. I got a lot of sins and whatnot. But that's what I like about being born again is, as long as you ask the Son for forgiveness and admit your sins, you're forgiven.
Yep.
Did you spend a lot of time with religious authorities in prison, the chaplain or whatever they're called?
Me? Oh, yeah. Tons.
Did that help get you through it?
Yeah, I sang in the chapel band. I actually gave a few sermons while I was there. I coordinated the Christmas pageant we had both years. Those were the people that I said that they went to my boss, the community resource manager, the chaplain, the deacon, the Muslim clerk, all of them. They all worked directly under him, and so a lot of times they would just come to my office and talk to me, and then I would take whatever they had to say to him, And then I started going to the Protestant chapel because it was right there, and that's when I got connected with the guys. I started reading the book a little bit, started studying a little bit. Like I said, sang with the chapel band, rocked out a bit. I mean, I had a blast while I was there. Matter of fact, I think I've shown you the picture of when I was with the band, right?
Jason, did your involvement with religion help you get through your sentence?
Well, actually, I was already involved with religion before I started my sentence, and but it did. I had a good understanding of my belief in God and Jesus Christ and all that stuff when I started. And when I started, I mean when I got convicted, when I started catching my rep. And, I'm an anarchist. I believe everybody has their own beliefs and they're entitled to it. But my understanding of God really did help me a lot through my times, especially considering with the
Being deprived of the company of women.
no, I was going to say the specifics of my offense.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we'll leave off there. I think that's a good place to end. Thank you guys very much for enlightening me about all these topics, because I've never done time. Hopefully I'll never will, but at least, being forewarned is being forearmed.
That's right. Get some God in your life.
Did you just say forearmed?
Forewarned.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah, forearmed.
Yeah, armed in advance, being prepared.
I'm going to forearm the fuck out of people. This is fucking great. Hey, Morgan, Raymond, I thank you guys so much. This was great.
For sure.
Yeah.
Your first episode.
And Ray, don't forget to include that clip of the scared straight thing. Do you still have that?
Yeah.
Should I send it?
I'll find it. Yeah, send it to me again. Why not? Just to be safe. Yeah. Why not?
I got shit to do.
All right. Do your thing.
All right,
All right, everybody.
Here, guys.
Till next time, don't get arrested.